Is it nice to finally have a dry practice?
Yes, it was nice. I thought practice went really well. Real pleased with what we got from the guys. They had good energy, good focus, and yeah, it was nice to have the field also firm. You know, the guys seemed to react to that very nicely.
Looks like Torrey's getting closer and closer. Could he potentially be a decision this weekend?
Potentially. Torrey had a good day, worked well. You know, they picked out a few of them, opportunities for him to be on the field with the guys. You know, he warmed up, did some things, took some reps. Again, I mean, they planned him out pretty well for him, and he seemed to handle it pretty good. We'll see how he is tomorrow, though. And, you know, we've always talked about that, you know, guys coming back, we always see how they are the next morning before we talk about, you know, what the next step is.
I know you guys take a lot of precaution where concussions are concerned. Denoris Cersei out there working on the side today. Realistically, what is the long-term ideal situation for him?
Not to get into anything in terms of that, but you know he's done really well. He's done exactly what he's supposed to, and you know now's a good opportunity for him to start working. We'll see what happens.
But obviously, Eric gives you having Eric gives you a ton of security.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, you know, we're in a good spot right now. I mean, we've got some healthy guys. Guys are doing some really good things, you know. So there really is no need to hurry or push anybody.
And sorry, one more injury question. Sorry, Joe, but the Devon Funchess back injury, back issue. What's going on with him?
This was something that popped up from the game, and so we'll just see how he is.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you if there was any level of concern with Devon specifically.
We'll see how he is tomorrow. I mean, you know, we still got a couple more days of practice. I know that they were treating him. They've been treating him all day. He was in yesterday and got some treatment, I do believe, too. So we'll see how it is. I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, when a guy hurts his back, it's always about, you know, how they progress in terms of their rehab.
After the game, of course, we were asking you about him a lot with the drops and so forth. How would you, I guess it's been a little more than a year now since he kind of took over for Kelvin. How would you assess how he's handled that number one role?
I think he's handled it very well. I think he's done the things that we've needed him to do. I mean, he had a tough day on Sunday, and that's going to happen. You know, guys, you know, sometimes don't have the days that you want them to have. But unfortunately, you know, he had this on Sunday. You know, again, I remember that same game last year where he played, you know, lights out. So it happens, and you know, he'll bounce back. He's a good football player. He's made some, you know, a lot of plays for us, and you know, we'll see how that goes.
Have you ever considered that, like the number one role, though?
I never really have. You know, on as far as this offense is concerned, as this team is concerned, I think guys play their roles more so than anything else, and that's the biggest thing is that guys play the roles that we need them to. You know, people ask about all the time, well, how come he's not playing more? How come that guy's not doing? Because the way Norv sets things up, it's about what your role is and where you fit, and about how you know how the play is designed. And I think that's probably the more important thing is how does he fit into his role?
What is Curtis Samuel's role and where does he fit?
Well, his opportunities. Again, when Norv sees the opportunity to call a specific play, specific personnel grouping, he'll do so, and he'll put and then he'll have the right personnel group in for that.
Talk to Darius a little bit about how, because he is also a situational guy who has been insanely productive when he has gotten his opportunities, Curtis being the same type of player, of course. But it's kind of a double-edged sword because when they do go in, opposing teams know when that guy's on the field, there might be a likelihood that the ball is going their way. So how do you maintain that, and how do you keep a balance there?
Well, because there might be a likelihood that it won't go that way. And I think that, and I mean that. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, that's part of the whole thing about the things that we do on the offensive side. You know, certain plays set up other plays, and that's just the way that is. So, and you can say the same thing about personnel groupings. Okay, just in case you guys want to know. Okay, these will be on sale on Sunday. Greg Olson's charity, and $5 for everyone sold will go to Levine's Children's Hospital. Okay, just wanted to point that out. I was waiting. Yeah, I was getting hot. I was waiting for somebody to ask me, but nobody would. You know, Greg came to me and asked me to do that. And again, you know, $5 will go to Levine's Children's Hospital, and I think it's a really great deal what Greg has been doing over there.
Did you think about putting a picture of yourself in the beanie on a shirt?
No, we thought about the shirt, but unfortunately I was a little late with it, and they didn't have time to get one made.
Effie was back out on the field.
Yes.
How did he do with his practice?
Fa was fine. You know, Fa was a scratch. Just decided to have Marquise up and see what Marquise can do. I thought Marquise played well. I thought the opportunity to play on turf favors Marquise a little bit. You know, we had him up in the Atlanta game again because of the turf, and wanted to see him. And again, he did some good things. So, Fa for the most part, you know, was a scratch just because of that.
What do you think for Norv and the play calling when a guy like Curtis and a guy like DJ makes the big plays in the fourth quarter, really tough catches in terms
Well,
of
from my perspective, you know, when you have guys like that you can rotate in and out, it means you don't have to shy away from calling certain types of plays. You know, each guy plays a specific role. Each guy has a certain skill set, and when you have guys like that, you can utilize them and you can design plays for them, or you can design plays to have them out there. So again, I think it gives Norv a lot of options.
When you have guys that are a little bit more in a situational, and I'm probably using the wrong word for it, but when they are in that role, a Jarius, a Curtis, the guys that rotate in and out, and teams see, you know, them getting opportunities and are very productive when they get those opportunities. How much more crucial is it to kind of be perfect in that situation and win early and be really crisp in your route running and all of those types
Well,
of things?
I think you got to be like that all the time. You know, it's interesting because, you know, having been around Norv, you know, 5 years ago and seeing him today, he's got the same attitude about the way, you know, things have to be done. You know, there's a high level of expectation. And you know, I've heard him say this, and that is you have to run your routes a specific way because the quarterback expects you to be in certain areas. And that's a point he's gotten across to our guys. And, you know, part of the reason, too, you rotate guys out, too, is because when you bring certain guys in, there's certain routes that they run, and, you know, they have to run them at top speed.
How would you we haven't seen you since Monday night. Did you get to watch some of that game, all the games?
I watched the first half for the most part.
As a defensive guy, when you see that score, what do you think?
Wow. You know, I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of the way things are set up. I mean, you look at some of the rule changes and some of the things that they do that you can tell, you know, from my perspective as a defensive guy that, you know, things are set up for them. And that's, I think, what's happening. I think that's part of the whole bit of what this, you know, league is turning towards, and that is, you know, higher scores. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not a fan of it. I like a good old-fashioned, you know, 7-6 game or something like that. I'd be fine with that.
How do defenses compete now? How do they survive?
Well, you're going to have to find a way to match it. I mean, everything's kind of cyclical. I think, you know, the league is cyclical in terms of the types of plays that are out there, players that are out there. You know, there was a time when, you know, it was power football. Then you came out and you had these smaller wide receivers, you know, i.e. what Washington was doing with the Fun Bunch back in the day. And, you know, then they got back to power football, and then, you know, then it was wide open again. And, you know, and it's like this too. Philadelphia did something a couple of years ago with Chip Kelly and brought that offense there. And that first year and a half, everybody was kind of like, wow, okay, how do you stop it? And then I think what happened was, you know, coaches were able to figure it out and, you know, and understood it a little bit better, and were able to stop it. I think that's part of, you know, what may be happening is we're seeing a lot of new things this year. And so we're just trying to figure out how to stop all these new things that we see. And again, I think in time, you know, it'll balance itself back out again.
Ron, you faced Seattle in a lot of meaningful games over the last couple of years. Whether you've won or lost those games, what have you always taken away from facing those teams?
Well, I'll tell you what, when you play teams like that, you know, you really do see what it takes. I mean, you know, I thought in the 2015 season they were the measuring stick because they were the defending NFC champions, and I told our guys at that point, you know, to be the champs, you got to beat the champs, and that was kind of the thing that happened for us because they were our nemesis, and they were a group that really gave us a hard time. So you always want to, you know, do that. I mean, it's like anytime you're playing against New England. You know, you really want to play well because, to me, that's the measuring stick. That tells you, those types of teams tells you where you are.
Even at 5-5, this team can still tell you where.
I think so. I think they're very well coached. I think they've got tremendous playmakers on both sides of the ball, and so I think it is a good test. So, you know, this time of year, I don't think it's a really good indicator where teams are. I think you really don't know until you get to the end. Then you really can tell what teams are all about. You know, some teams will start to trend up. Some teams will fall to the wayside. But, you know, and that's why I say that's why you play them, to find out.
Ron, Seattle's had some, you know, personnel changes in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players in that defense no longer there, but they still got Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Russell's still a quarterback. Despite all the personnel shifting around, do you still feel like this is a team where you fully know what to expect from them with the culture that they have on that
Yes,
defense?
very much so, and that's a big part of it, is what you said exactly, is culture, and I think that's important. You know, Coach Carroll's done a great job. They've won a championship up there. They've been competitive for a long time, and so you expect it from teams like that. It's just one of those things that when you see what they've had in terms of success, you got to take your hat off to them.
Ron, Cam has had 8 giveaways against them in 7 career games. What has made them so effective in taking the ball away from Cam? And do you feel like with the way Norv's offense has made him more efficient this year, he's better poised to sort of adapt to that?
I think so, but we'll see on Sunday, because, again, that's why you play them, to find out. I think part of it has always been that, they've been tough games. They've been close games. And sometimes there are games where you've been forced to try and make a play to win. And sometimes that happens, and something unfortunate happens.
And talking to Greg and Cam and some other guys, just kind of what needs to be fixed or what, just to get a win this weekend. The word that keeps coming up seemingly is just the word focus.
Yes.
Why does that keep, or what do you see? Or
Well, I think the biggest thing more so than anything else, and I said it on Sunday and I said it on Monday, that's about the base fundamentals. You got to focus in on our jobs. Sometimes when certain things go on, you forget about the little details. So you got to focus in on the little details. Those are probably the most important thing, because if you miss too many little details, the big things don't work. And that's part of what I've expressed as I believe is part of our problem. You look on the defensive side, you could easily say tackling, and that's about as basic and as fundamental as it gets. On the offensive side, you could say, well, we missed a block here, we dropped the ball there. Well, that's pretty basic to football as well as blocking, tackling, catching. And those are things that we have to shore up again.
and how does that kind of get lost in the shuffle? Is it just a product of trying to make too much of a play at one time? And
I think it is, and I think a little bit has to do with the opportunity to completely practice. And again, when certain things, elements happen, it's tough.
Ron Shack was saying that when you've got a mobile quarterback like Russell Wilson or Dak or some of those guys, there are particular ones where you've got to be aware of the scrambling, but not just for the scrambling, but for the ability to throw after
Absolutely.
that. How difficult is it to game plan for that sort of
It's very difficult. It's something you can't account for, because, again, once a guy breaks the pocket, anything can happen. And the thing that you find, the guys that have a lot of success don't necessarily run the ball as much as they're always looking downfield. And I'll always go back to when we were scouting Cam when he was coming out at Auburn. That was one of the things that we found, that everybody talked about him being a scrambling quarterback. He really wasn't. When we broke down, we watched every one of his throws. A portion of those throws was staying alive behind the line of scrimmage and then throwing the ball downfield.
We talked a lot about the Seahawks defense. What do you see out of them offensively, and what do you think some of the keys will be for you guys?
I think the biggest key, most certainly, is going to be able to have to stop the run. I mean, they're running the ball very successfully right now. They had a change in their offensive philosophy. Brian Schottenheimer as a coordinator has done a great job for them. I think they're grasping the concepts of what they do, and that makes them a very efficient offense. One of the things that they do also is they control the clock. I think, what was it, Green Bay only had the ball 50 plays on offense, and that when you give their quarterback, Green Bay's quarterback, more plays than 50, he's going to score more points. And I think that's a big part of what they're doing too. They're controlling the tempo and the time.
Talk a little bit about the measuring stick aspect of this game. Is it kind of fun having a natural rival that's outside the division that you're going to see every couple of years, and you kind of know about them, they know about you?
I wouldn't call it fun, but there is a certain challenge to it. I enjoy it. I really do. I mean, Coach Carroll's been a staple there on the West Coast and has had a lot of success. And the challenge, obviously, is competing against his football team, and that's what we look. That's how I look at it. Is that you want to be able to be successful against teams that do pose those types of challenges.
A lot of the guys in the locker room were talking about how this Sunday might has a playoff-like atmosphere because of how close you guys are with the standings, and how do you keep everybody measured but still make sure that they're getting up for the game?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just so everybody understands that this is the most important game we'll play this year, okay? And then next week will take its place. But right now we're focusing in on Seattle because it is very important that we play well against this team and win. And that's just the bottom line. That's the truth of the matter.
Ron, has the team had time to reflect on the nomination of Sam Mills in the semifinals for the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Honestly, no. We really haven't. I mean, it's, you get so caught up and so focused in on the season, but to find that out, I think is really cool. Here's a guy that was a tremendous icon here in the city. He had a tremendous career, and a very unfortunate, passing. But he impacted this organization greatly, And it most certainly is one of those things that would be a tremendous feather in his cap, his family's cap, that his legacy stays alive.
Ron,
We've seen and heard a lot from Cam's as far as his activity in the community, helping kids. And from your perspective, you've had him since he was a rookie in 2011. How have you seen him mature and grow in his off-field focus?
That's probably the biggest thing. You've seen him grow more so than anything else as a young man, that he understands his significance and importance in his community. You know, it's one of the things that we talk about here in this organization is how important it is to give back. I mean, this is a community that supports us and been behind us. And we most certainly do want to make sure they know that we appreciate them and we give back to them. I mean, there's been some tremendous things that our guys have done this year, you know, i.e. talking about Greg Olson and, you know, and then what Julius has done with the hurricane relief, you know, and now what Cam does with helping the families out during the holiday season, because I know he'll have a Christmas drive that he does as well. You know, what Thomas has done with the Defending Dreams Foundation. I think it's real important that we do these things because, again, this is a community that's been very supportive of this organization. And I know most certainly of my tenure here for the last 8 seasons.
Cool. Thanks, Coach.
We're good? Cool.